What if I told you that most of us don't actually want love? What we really want is to feel picked. And that tiny difference is the real reason so many of us end up in cycles of heartbreak, chasing unavailable people, or confusing chaos for chemistry. Let me paint it this way for you. Remember when you were a child in school lining up for teams during gym class and everyone standing there awkwardly praying that they're not picked last, and the second your name gets called, boom, adrenaline. You light up inside, you feel like you matter. That's the exact rush. That micro hit of finally being chosen is the same feeling so many of us are still chasing in our adulthood, unfortunately. Except now it's not for dodgeball, it's dating, friendships, careers, and our entire lives. We just want to be picked. So today we're gonna break this all the way down. Why we confuse love with being picked, how childhood conditioning wires this pattern into your nervous system, and why it shows up in all our adult relationships, especially romantic ones. And most importantly, how to break free and start experiencing real, stable love. The kind that's safe, steady, and actually deeply fulfilling to our soul. Okay, part one starts with the childhood roots, right? Like, let's go back to our childhood because we know that's the most important thing that shapes our entire adulthood. For most of us, love was conditional. If you got good grades, you were praised. If you behaved, you were loved. If you looked pretty or you stayed quiet or didn't cause trouble, you were accepted. So your nervous system wired this belief: love isn't natural and love isn't unconditional. Love is something that I have to earn and something that I have to be picked for. And it's not necessarily your parents' fault. Most of them didn't know any better. They were parented the same way. Society tells parents, reward the good and punish the bad. That's how you raise kids. So if you bring home an A, they smile, they clap, they even celebrate. If you fail, they'll scold you or withdraw you from things. Not out of cruelty, but because that's how they were taught that love works. That's how they were taught to teach their child what is good and what is bad. The problem is though, that as a child, you don't see this as a strategy. You don't think, oh, my parents are just motivating me. No, you internalize it as the truth. I am only worthy when I'm picked for doing good. I'm only lovable when I prove myself. And because parents are your entire world when you're small, that belief becomes your template for love. You carry that forward into every single relationship you have. The belief that was shaped when you were from 0 to 5 years old. And okay, how does this show up in our adulthood? Fast forward to adulthood and here's what happens. When someone finally notices you, when they text back after ignoring you, when they give you that attention, that half-hearted attention that you truly want, you feel the rush. Like you're finally being picked from the team. The same thing that you were feeling when you were a child. That's why inconsistency for so many people feels addictive. That's why anxiety feels like chemistry in the start. That's why you mistake breadcrumbs for proof of love. It's not love, it's your inner child getting a dopamine hit from being noticed. And ironically, when someone shows up with real, steady, consistent love like you deserve, it feels boring at first. Not because it's actually boring, but because your nervous system has been conditioned to equate chaos with passion. And this is exactly what my favorite book, Attached, talks about. If you haven't read it, it's a game changer. Your attachment style as an adult is basically your childhood love script. If love was inconsistent, you might be anxiously attached, always chasing, always needing reassurance. If love was withdrawn, you might be avoidant, pushing people away to protect yourself. Or look at Good Will Hunting. Will keeps sabotaging relationships because deep down, he doesn't believe that he's worthy of love. So he will keep self-sabotaging. That scene where Robin Williams repeats that it's not your fault until it finally sinks in, that's the breakthrough. Separating love from the need to be picked. And maybe you've lived this too. I know so many people who have. Chasing the person who ignores you, obsessing over the one who doesn't text back, or only feeling alive when someone gives you that attention after withdrawing it. That's not passion, that's survival mode, and that's reenacting your childhood trauma. And as long as you're addicted to being picked, you will never know what real love looks like. Because real love isn't about being chosen one day and then discarded the next, and then again picked and then discarded. Real love isn't about proving your worth until someone finally gives you crumbs of attention. Is that truly what you want? Forever? Because real love should be steady, consistent, and safe. There's so much that you're gonna go through with your partner in life. And think about it. If you're in a toxic relationship right now, will you be able to handle that when you're pregnant? Will you be able to handle that when someone is sick? Will you be able to handle that when you're going through the toughest time in your life? No, you want someone steady and grounded. Real love just doesn't give you an adrenaline rush all the time. It doesn't spike your nervous system. It grounds you, in fact. But because so many of us grew up equating equating love with approval, we mistake stillness for boring and chaos for chemistry. And then we wonder why we keep getting drained, heartbroken, or feeling never enough, because there's a dip and then there's a high and a dip and a high again. And you cannot go through that forever in your life. It may be thrilling for 1 or 2 months or 1 or 2 years, but think about it, forever. Let's get scientific. Let me explain it in a scientific way for those who like science. Your brain literally craves what it knows and not what's good for you. It doesn't care. That's called familiarity bias. So if your childhood taught you that love is inconsistency, your brain wires to seek that out. Even if it hurts, even if it drains you, it's why the wrong person feels magnetic all the time and the right person will feel flat and boring. Your nervous system is addicted to this roller coaster of being picked, rejected, and then picked again. And it's a never-ending loop. It releases dopamine in the high moments and then cortisol in the low. And the cycle feels like passion to you because there's so much like chemistry. There actually is chemicals being released in your body, but it's not passion. It's just trauma chemistry. And it's going to harm your health, your mental health, your physical health, and every type of well-being in your life forever if you go through this loop. So how do you break free now? How do you break free from this pattern? Let me tell you exactly. Step 1 is you catch yourself in real time. This is the absolute game changer. This is your step 1, because the thing is that most of us are living on autopilot. We don't really check in on ourselves and what we're thinking. We're chasing people, we're refreshing all the messages, we're overthinking what they meant, waiting to be picked, and half of the time we don't even realize that we're doing it because it's like second nature to us. And the first step to this is then awareness. And awareness happens in all the small micro movements, not in the big breakthrough, like when you're like, I've had it, but in the small moments that make you reach there. So here's how you actually catch that in real life. You notice the trigger. You pay attention to the real things that spark the spiral and then make you have a breakdown later. Like the second you feel your heart race when you see them typing after ghosting you for 2 days, or when you go to change your outfit because you're imagining what someone else will think and not how you feel, that's the moment to pause. Then you need to check into your thoughts. Literally sit there and take a journal out or your notes app and ask yourself, am I craving love right now, or am I just craving the feeling of being picked? Am I behaving this way because I know they'll pick me after doing this? And be brutally honest. A lot of the times it's not even about the person, it's about the hit of validation you think that their attention will give you. You label that then. Neuroscience show that just naming what your experience is takes the power out of it. Literally say it in your mind, this is me wanting to be picked. Why are you shying away from yourself? You can say it in your mind. Don't tell someone else, but tell yourself at least. When you label it, you separate yourself from the reaction instead of drowning in it. And then you create a pattern interrupt. Do something small that pulls you back into your own body. It could be a deep breath, walking into another room, or writing a quick note in your phone. The goal is to pause before you act. The reason why this is so powerful is because it gives you a choice. Instead of blindly reacting, you get to ask yourself, what do I actually want right now? Like you're separating yourself from your thoughts, and that's a real moment where you feel freedom. That's when you stop chasing people and start choosing with intention. And then step 2 is to reparent your inner child. My favorite. This one is really deep, and the desperation to be picked actually isn't adult you. It's your inner child. It's that little version of you who still believes that love has to be earned, like maybe they learned in their childhood. So every time that you catch yourself spiraling, waiting for the next text, begging for crumbs when you know it, pause and choose yourself at that time. Do me a favor and choose yourself. Say this out loud, I pick me. And I have a whole detailed video on reparenting your inner child, and I will link that. You can go and watch that right after this so you understand this point in more detail. I know that it sounds cheesy, but this is reparenting. You're literally giving your nervous system the safety that it never got, unfortunately. You're showing yourself that love doesn't only come when someone else gives it to me. I can give it to myself right now because maybe I'm not finding someone that's good for me now. The more that you practice this, the less power those old wounds have over you, and you'll choose better in the future. You retrain your brain to see worth as internal and not external all the time. Now let's make this practical. How do you even know that if what you're chasing is real love or it's just the thrill of being picked? Like, how do you truly know? Here's how. You have to sit down and rationalize with yourself. Like with any other thing, you have to ask yourself, who is this person that I'm chasing? Are they someone who I can actually build a future with? Someone who is emotionally available, consistent, supportive? Can they show up for you in ways that you truly need? Because if your honest answer, even partially, is no, then what you're craving from them is not love. It's just that dopamine hit of being chosen or feeling validated for that second. And you need to be brave enough to call yourself out on that. Another powerful question could be that, can this person give me unconditional love? Not love that depends on my looks, my behavior, the way I'm acting that day, or the way I'm dressing that day. Because you're going to grow old. Your looks are going to change. Your behavior is going to change. You're going to change as a person. Can they give me unconditional love? If the answer for you is no, then again, what you're looking after and what you're going after isn't love, it's performance for scraps. And that's when you remind yourself, I don't need to be begging my inner child to prove that she's lovable. I can prove it to her right now by choosing myself and walking away from the situation that isn't nourishing me as a person. And ask yourself as well, is this someone I can unconditionally love forever? They're going to change. Their behaviors are going to change. Their looks are going to change. Everything about them is going to change. Can I love them unconditionally? And asking yourself these difficult questions. And that's what reparenting looks like in action. Not just saying that I pick me, but also walking away from situations that don't nourish you and also acting on it by not chasing love in places that it doesn't exist for you. And then step 3 is to normalize safe love. Very important again. Often I see people, or often you'll get into a relationship and everything feels good in the start, calm and stable eventually, and then consistent. And then this little voice will creep in like, okay, this is boring. This is really boring. You start thinking it's stagnant. There's no butterflies. There's no adrenaline. You miss the butterflies, the chaos, and the highs and lows you probably had in a relationship before, which you felt there was so much passion there. But the truth is that maybe that's exactly what you need. Maybe this stability is what you need. Maybe the rush you think you're craving isn't chemistry, and that's the toxicity of that person. Because when love for you has always felt like inconsistency, your body has been trained to think that way. It has been trained to think that unpredictability is passion, and that's why I need to go after that. This is not fulfilling. That roller coaster of highs and lows that you're craving, that lights up your nervous system, is super exciting. But it's not love. It's just adrenaline. And again, you cannot go through with this for your whole life. And that's why safe, stable love will feel flat in comparison to that in the start. Not because it's flat, but because your nervous system feels like it's flat and doesn't know how to handle that piece. So how do we fix this? How do we fix this minor issue in us? How do you normalize stability so you can actually enjoy it? You reframe this boring. The next time that you feel like consistency is boring, you ask yourself, is that person showing up for me? You'll be like, yes. Are they showing up in their best way? You're like, yes, but it's still boring. Then this is what stability feels like. This is your nervous system healing. You need to sit with it and you need to let it be boring. Literally say to yourself that little reframe trains your brain to see calm as safety and not lack. Detox from that chaos. If you've been used to drama, give yourself time. Think of it like a withdrawal. Your brain and body are recalibrating. Don't panic if it feels dull. Sit through the detox. And even after a long time that you sit with it, if you still feel like this is not the person for you, then you may think and take action. But wait for some time and try to look at things more rationally without putting your feelings into it much, like your emotions, because maybe you're not used to this type of love, but this is all you need. And try to get your adrenaline from life, from hobbies, from goals, from travel, workouts, adventure, and let your relationship be your anchor and let life bring the fireworks for you. Like build your own life. Practice gratitude in those calm moments. Instead of dismissing the stability, pause and notice it and write down why you like your partner. There has to be reasons you like them or love them. And if there aren't, then again, sit and think about it. Think about that Sunday morning coffee that you have with them and you feel safe. You feel like you know they're not cheating on you. You feel safe around their company. You feel seen. Maybe that's what you need. And that text where someone checks in without being asked. Those are gold small moments. Train your brain to then focus on those moments, because what you train your brain to see, your brain will start seeing and filtering that more, and you realize that, okay, this is the type of love that I kind of wanted. Because the bottom line is that safe love is not boring. It's just healing. It's what allows you to finally breathe, to finally be yourself, and to finally stop performing, because there's no high and low. It's just fun, stable, grounded love. And the more that you practice sitting with it, the more your body will start to crave it instead of the chaos. Have you noticed how some people jump from relationship to relationship to relationship like this? And when you ask them why things ended, they'll say like, oh, the start was really amazing, but after a few weeks, it just went downhill from there. But if you really decode what they're trying to say, and I'm not saying this is for everyone, but most of the people, if you decode what they're trying to say is that I just wanted that dopamine hit of being chosen in the start, that rush of validation when someone new picked me. But once things get real, once things slow down, they get stable, and that rush goes away and maybe even a little boring, they're out of the situation. They're out of the relationship because they're not actually craving love. They're craving adrenaline spike of being picked again and again. So they keep going from relationship to relationship. And the dangerous part is that people who live like this often can't stay in long-term relationships. They sabotage stability because their nervous system has been wired to equate chaos with love. So if someone isn't giving them that, those constant highs and lows, they'll start looking for it elsewhere, for that hit, which is just toxicity. And this is why so many people end up years later settling with a toxic partner, because toxic love delivers that adrenaline almost every day. The daily ups and downs, the push and pull, the drama, it tricks your nervous system into thinking, oh, this is familiar. This is what my childhood was. This must be love. But it's not love. It's just a trauma bond which you will regret later on in life. And then years down the line, when you finally start healing, you look around and you think, when you're maturing up and when you're healing, what have I gotten myself into? This is not at all what I wanted. That's why I need you to hear me right now. The earlier that you recognize this pattern, the sooner you can save yourself from years and years of heartbreak and self-sabotage. Because if you don't, you risk building your whole future on adrenaline disguised as love. And that's not just exhausting, it's damaging for you, for this one life that you get. Stable love might not give you that constant rush, but it will give you peace, safety, and space to grow in the long term. And if that feels uncomfortable right now, maybe that's exactly why you need it. For your own betterment, I need you to actually sit with this, not just nod along and move on. Sit down, journal, meditate, go on a solo walk or a solo trip if you need to, and create a little silence and ask yourself, in my relationships, have I been chasing the adrenaline of being picked? Do I feel a high at the start, and then the moment it goes and gets calm and stable, I label as boring and then pull away or self-sabotage and make that person leave me? Is the game the part that I'm addicted to, the game of getting the mouse? And if your answer, even a little bit, don't lie to yourself, is yes, please hear me out. This pattern didn't come from nowhere. You might say, but my childhood was good. My parents were always there. It can still be true, and there could still have been a subtle issue or subtle inconsistencies, tiny moments where you felt like you had to perform, behave, and achieve, or be extra pleasant to secure love. And that's where your attachment style has come from. You might not remember these small, specific moments, even though you had the best childhood, but your nervous system remembers them. Your body remembers them. And that's where it comes in your adulthood with relationships. Little things wire big beliefs. If this is you, then here's your path forward. This video is your path forward. You reparent your inner child. I have a whole video on this. Go watch that. Do the practices. Start telling yourself that I pick myself daily out loud. Give yourself safety first. Build routines. Calm your body. Nourish your life so love doesn't have to be chaos to feel alive for you. Redefine love. Real love is not extreme affection on Monday and then disappearing on Tuesday and then back on Wednesday. Real love is safety, steady, respectful, warm, and reliable. Not saying you won't have fights, but it always comes back to being safe. It won't spike your adrenaline, and if it will regulate your nervous system more. That's what you've been missing. So take a breath with me right now. Inhale and exhale and choose yourself. And the next time that you feel yourself chasing, ask, do I want to be picked or do I just want to be loved? When you start choosing love over ego, safety over your spikes, and truth over games, you change your future for the better. And if this hit home, tell me in the comments. I would love to hear, and tell me what you're realizing about your patterns and whatever self-realization moments you've had. Those are my favorite. I read every single one, and if you want a part 2 where you want me to go deeper into rewiring this, say the word and I'll have it. I love you. You're always worthy before anyone ever picked you. I'll see you in the next one.